Billionaire sees poor mother returning her daughter's bread due to lack of change and does the unthinkable. The morning sun was already beating down hard on the downtown sidewalks when Callie squeezed Maya's hand tighter than necessary. It wasn't the fear of losing her in the rushing crowd. It was the fear of breaking down right there, in front of everyone, and not being able to get back up. She carried nothing but hope. Hope of finding an opening, a sign in a window, a manager needing help. Anything. She went from store to store asking. It was all she knew how to do. Maya was 5 years old. Pale blonde hair, almost platinum, pulled back in a slightly crooked ponytail that Callie had done early that morning. Clear blue eyes, transparent as water, that sparkled even when there was no reason to sparkle. She wore a faded pink dress, patched on the shoulder, but clean. Always clean. Callie insisted on that. Dignity was what remained when everything else was gone. "Mommy, how many stores are we going to today?" Maya asked, looking up with that innocent curiosity only a child has. "As many as it takes, sweetie." "What if nobody wants us?" Callie swallowed hard. Her throat burned. "Someone will." But the truth was no one had yet. 3 weeks of searching. 3 weeks of hearing no. 3 weeks of watching hope dwindle a little more each day. They entered a clothing store. The cold air conditioning hit Callie's face as a temporary relief. The attendant, a young woman in an impeccable uniform, barely looked at Callie before saying they weren't hiring. She didn't even let her finish the question. She just shook her head and went back to arranging the racks. At the pharmacy, the manager was more polite. He listened to Callie say she was looking for work, that she would do anything, cleaning, organizing, stocking. He scratched his beard, thoughtful, but then said there were no openings at the moment, maybe next month. But Callie already knew that tone. It was the tone of someone who was just being kind. At the corner market, they didn't even let her finish speaking. The owner waved her away, irritated, saying he already had too many people and didn't need anyone else. Maya didn't complain. She walked beside her mother, quiet, observing everything with those big, attentive eyes. Occasionally, she squeezed Callie's hand as if saying without words, "It's okay, Mom, I'm here." But it wasn't okay. Callie's stomach churned, not just from hunger, from guilt too, from shame, from soul weariness. They passed a toy store window. Maya stopped for a second, her eyes fixed on a doll with a blue dress and a bow in its hair. She didn't ask for anything. She just looked. She stood there, still, with that gentle expression that broke Callie's heart into 1,000 pieces. Then she kept walking, without saying anything. Callie felt her chest tighten so much she could barely breathe. One more store, a stationery shop. The woman at the counter was nice, but the answer was the same, no. One more no. One more forced smile from Callie as she thanked her and left, holding her daughter's hand tightly. The sun was really starting to heat up. Maya pulled at her shirt, her face flushed, strands of hair sticking to her sweaty forehead. "Mommy. I'm hungry." Callie stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. She felt the world spin for a second. She looked at her daughter, saw her dry lips, her pale skin slightly reddened, her messy hair, felt her own throat close, her eyes sting. "I'm sorry, sweetie, I don't have any money." Maya didn't cry. She didn't throw a tantrum. She didn't insist. She just lowered her head and mumbled an almost inaudible, "It's okay," so softly Callie barely heard it. And that was exactly what destroyed Callie inside. Because Maya didn't whine. She didn't demand. She didn't complain about hunger, tiredness, or heat. She just accepted. And a child who accepts hunger without question is a child who has learned too early about the harsh sides of life. Callie took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. She looked around, blinking fast to stop the tears from falling. There was a bakery right on the corner, small, old, with a faded striped awning. The smell of fresh bread escaped through the half-open door and spread onto the street like a cruel invitation. "Come on, Maya." They went inside. The atmosphere was welcoming. Beige ceramic floor, some wooden tables worn by time, a glass counter displaying golden loaves, simple cakes, biscuits. An elderly woman in a white apron was working the cash register. Two men were talking quietly at a corner table. The smell was irresistible, warm, comforting. Callie approached the counter. Maya stood silently beside her, eyes glued to the bread behind the glass. She barely blinked. "Good morning," the woman said, friendly, with a gentle smile. "What can I get for you, dear?" Callie looked at the prices written by hand on a small board behind the counter. She did quick mental math. She knew exactly how many coins she had in her pocket. She had counted them 3 times before leaving the house. "A plain roll, please." A roll small loaf is used to match the general idea of pain français. The woman picked up the bread with the metal tongs, placed it in a paper bag. Callie reached into her pocket and took out the coins. She put them in her palm. She counted 1, 2, 3, 4. She was 1 short. She looked again, turning the coins over. She rummaged through her pocket. Nothing. Just fabric crumbs and a loose button. The silence hung in the air like lead. "I'm sorry," Callie said, her voice low, almost a whisper. I forgot I was a little short." She returned the bread. The woman didn't say anything. She just took it back, without judgment, without pity. Just a look of understanding that somehow hurt more than anything. Maya said nothing, but Callie saw it. She saw the disappointment in those clear eyes, the way her small shoulders slightly slumped. She turned to leave, holding her daughter's hand tightly, trying to keep her head high, her dignity intact. But inside she was shattered, broken into pieces so small she no longer knew how to put them back together. "Excuse me," the voice came from behind, deep, calm. Callie turned around slowly. A man approached, tall, perhaps 6'1". He must have been in his early 40s, dark hair with strands of grey at the sides, well cut. He wore a light blue dress shirt, no tie, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, dark grey dress pants, well cared for leather shoes. He had a serene, almost gentle expression and attentive brown eyes. "I apologize for interfering," he said, already taking a brown leather wallet from his pocket. "May I pay for the bread for you?" Callie froze completely, not out of gratitude, out of shame, for feeling exposed, vulnerable, on display. "You don't have to," she replied, too quickly, almost curtly. "I know I don't have to, but I would like to, if you'll allow me." He looked at Maya, who was staring at him with that pure, unfiltered curiosity children have. He crouched down a little, getting closer to her height. "What's your name?" he asked Waddy with a small smile. "Maya." "Maya," he repeated, as if testing the sound. "Beautiful name. Do you like bread?" Maya glanced quickly at her mother, as if asking permission to answer. Callie nodded slightly, still tense, still unsure how to react. "I do," Maya said softly. "Then you're going to have one today." He turned to the attendant. "Could you put in 2 rolls, please, and an orange juice too, for the girl?" The woman smiled and carefully prepared everything. Callie wanted to refuse. She wanted to say they were fine, that they didn't need charity, that they would manage alone as they always had. But Maya was looking at that bag of bread as if it were the most precious thing in the entire world, and she didn't have the heart to take that away from her daughter. "Thank you," Callie murmured, almost inaudibly. "You don't need to thank me. Really." He paid, took the bag and the juice box, and carefully handed everything to Maya. "Here you go, little one." Maya held it with both hands, pressing it against her chest like a treasure someone might steal. "Have you 2 eaten today?" he asked, looking at Callie. The tone was casual, but the look was of genuine concern. Callie hesitated. She didn't want to lie, but she also didn't want to expose her own hardship to a complete stranger. "Not yet." He nodded slowly, without judgment, without pity, just understanding. "There's a table over there." He pointed to an empty small table near the window. "Would you like to sit for a bit? I can order some coffee, something to eat, no pressure, just so you don't go hungry." Callie was about to refuse again. But Maya had already walked to the table and sat down, carefully opening the bag, her eyes shining in a way Callie hadn't seen in a long time. "Just for a moment," Callie said, feeling awkward, still standing. He smiled. "Take your time." "As long as you need." He went to the counter and ordered coffee for Callie, hot chocolate milk for Maya, and some warm cheese bread rolls. They sat down. Maya ate slowly, savoring every bite, chewing properly, taking small sips of juice between bites. Callie drank her coffee in silence, holding the cup with both hands, still tense but feeling the comforting warmth go down her throat. "My name is Silas, by the way," he said, gently breaking the silence. "Callie." "Nice to meet you, Callie, and I've already met you." He winked at Maya, who gave a shy, almost hidden smile behind the juice box. "Do you live nearby?" "More or less," Silas nodded. He didn't press for more questions. He sensed that Callie was uncomfortable. "Were you looking for work?" he asked, gently. Callie sighed. I am, but nobody will hire me." "What kind of work are you looking for?" "Any kind. Cleaning, cooking, childcare, organizing stock, anything that comes up." "I know how to do a lot of things." Her voice held a tone of contained desperation. "I just need someone to give me a chance." Silas nodded, watching her for a moment. Not with pity, not with judgment, with respect. Maya finished her roll and wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, leaving crumbs at the corner of her lips. Silas grabbed a paper napkin from the little table and handed it to her with a gentle smile. She wiped herself thoroughly and returned the napkin all folded up, neat as a pin. Callie felt something strange, something she couldn't name. It wasn't pity in his eyes, it was respect, as if he saw more in them than two people needing help, as if he saw real people with worth, with dignity. "You know," Silas said, looking at Maya with a smile, "you are very polite." Maya smiled awkwardly, swinging her legs under the table. "My mommy taught me." "She taught you very well." Callie felt her eyes sting again, but she held firm. She wouldn't cry here, not in front of a stranger, not in front of her daughter. They stayed there for a few more minutes. They talked little. Silas didn't ask invasive questions. He didn't try to extract confessions or sad stories. He was just present, and that was rare, very rare. When they finished, Callie stood up. "Thank you so much, from the bottom of my heart. We need to go." "Wait." Silas stood up too. "John, have you been to the grocery store today?" "Grocery store? To buy food, for lunch, for the day, things like that." Callie was speechless, because the true answer was no. The true answer was that she didn't even have money for that. "I'm heading out to do some shopping now," he said casually, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "If you want, I can drive you. It makes it easier to carry the bags, and you can get what you need." Callie hesitated. She didn't know this man. She knew nothing about him, about his life, about his intentions. But something about him conveyed security, something in his voice, his eyes, the calm way he carried himself. And besides that, Maya was looking at her with that silent hope that was impossible to ignore. "All right," Callie said, cautiously but decisively, "but we won't accept anything else. Just the ride." Silas smiled in a way that made his eyes sparkle a little. "It's a deal." The market was small but well stocked. Narrow aisles, full shelves, the smell of fresh fruit mixed with bread. Silas took a slightly crooked metal cart and let Callie choose what she needed. She went straight for the basics: rice, beans, oil, bar soap, milk, pasta. Nothing superfluous, nothing that wasn't absolutely necessary for survival. Silas watched in silence, pushing the cart slowly. He didn't comment. He didn't interfere, but he noticed every hesitation, every item she picked up and then put back on the shelf, every mental calculation she made before putting something in the cart. Maya walked beside her mother, quiet, holding hands. Occasionally, she looked at the shelves with childlike curiosity, but never asked for anything. Not chocolates, not biscuits, nothing. Callie picked up a package of pasta, looked at the price, put it back, took another one, cheaper, lower quality. Silas felt something tighten in his chest. In the hygiene aisle, Callie picked up a bar of soap. She hesitated, looked at the cart, did mental math again, put the soap back. "You can take the soap," Silas said softly. "No, I already." "Callie." "Take it, please." She looked at him. She saw sincerity in his brown eyes. Not pity. Sincerity. A genuine desire to help. She sighed, too tired to resist. "Okay." They reached the checkout. Callie began to take the coins out of her pocket again, knowing it wouldn't be enough, knowing she would have to return half the items, but Silas was already swiping his card. "No," Callie said, trying to stop him. "I said I wouldn't accept it. I know, but I want to do this. Let me, please." Her eyes welled up with tears. She bit her lip, trying to hold them back. "Why? You don't even know me." Silas looked at her. Then he looked at Maya, who was holding his hand unknowingly, distracted by the candies at the checkout. "Because you deserve it. Simple as that." And he paid. Maya held his hand as they waited for the receipt to print. Silas looked down, surprised, feeling the small, warm hand in his. The little girl gave him a shy smile. Something stirred inside him, something that had been quiet, forgotten, for a long time. They left the market. Silas carried the bags, refusing Callie's help. Maya walked between them, glancing up at him occasionally with those clear eyes full of curiosity. "Where do you live?" Silas asked, as he put the bags in the trunk. Callie hesitated. "It's not far. We can carry them from here. I'll drive you. It's no trouble." "Seriously, you don't have to." "I know." "But I want to." She stared at him. He held her gaze, calm, patient. Callie gave in. "All right." They arrived at a simple neighborhood. Narrow, cracked asphalt streets, small houses, some well kept, others not so much. Trees here and there providing shade. Silas parked in front of an old two-story boarding house, paint peeling but still standing. Callie got out. Maya did too. "It's here." They entered through a slightly rusty side gate. They walked through a narrow corridor with clothes hanging on lines on one side. They reached a small room in the back, isolated from the rest. Callie opened the old wooden door, unlocking 2 locks. The room was tiny, about 10 by 10 feet at most. A single bed against the left wall, covered with patched but clean, fragrant sheets. On the floor, a thin mattress with a blanket folded on top, an old floor fan in the corner, making a loud, rhythmic noise, an improvised wooden shelf with a few old children's books and a container of crayons. 2 large cardboard boxes served as a small table, but it was clean, organized. Everything in its place, cared for with dignity. Silas walked in slowly, carrying the bags, feeling like he was entering a sacred space, because it was. That was their only space in the world. Callie placed the bags on the floor carefully. "It's small," she said, slightly embarrassed and without looking at him, "but it's ours." "And it's clean. It's a good place," Silas replied seriously, looking around. Truly. Callie looked at him, surprised by his sincerity. Maya had already gone to the cardboard boxes and started playing, making different voices, creating entire stories with empty boxes and imagination. This morning," Callie said suddenly, her voice low, almost confessional, "there was only salt." Silas looked at her, quietly. "Salt?" "Yes, just salt. In the communal kitchen out front." She gave a bitter, humorless smile. "I was going to make a miracle with water, salt, and creativity, but miracles don't happen, do they?" Silas didn't laugh. He didn't joke. He didn't minimize it. He just nodded, respecting her pain. "But now there is food," he said, pointing to the bags with a gentle gesture. "Yes." Callie sighed, feeling the weight lift a little. "Now there is." They stood in silence for a long moment. Maya played in the corner, building an imaginary city with the boxes, laughing to herself. Silas watched. He watched the way that little child turned nothing into everything. The way Callie looked at her daughter with a mixture of such deep love and such great pain that it was impossible to separate one from the other. He saw the contrast between the little material they had and the abundant human spirit they possessed. "Can I come back another day?" Silas asked suddenly, breaking the silence. Callie stared at him, surprised. "Why?" "Because I'd like to, if you let me." She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to refuse, to send him away, to close the door, to not let anyone in. Because letting someone in meant risking getting hurt again. But another part was tired. Tired of carrying everything alone. Tired of pretending everything was fine. Tired of being strong all the time. "If you want to," she said finally, in a thread of a voice. Silas smiled, a small but genuine smile. "Then I'll be back." He said goodbye to Maya, who waved with her chubby little hand. He said goodbye to Callie with a respectful nod. And he left, closing the door gently. Callie stood there, leaning against the closed door, trying to process everything that had happened that day. Maya came over to her, hugging her leg tightly. "He's nice, isn't he, Mummy?" Callie looked at her daughter. She stroked the pale blonde hair. "Yes, dear sweetie." "He is." And for the first time in a very, very long time, Callie felt something she had forgotten. Hope. 3 days passed since Silas's first visit. 3 days when Callie caught herself looking at the door, waiting. Not that she wanted to admit it to herself, but she was waiting. And then, one warm afternoon, he showed up. He knocked on the door gently. Callie opened it, surprised to feel her heart race. "Hi," Silas said, with that calm smile. He carried 2 bags, one with fruit, the other with something wrapped up. "Hi," Callie replied, slightly awkward. "May I come in?" She opened the door completely. Silas entered, placing the bags on the box that served as a table. Maya, who was drawing on the floor, looked up and smiled widely. "Silas!" He crouched down, getting to her height. "Hi, little one. I brought something for you." He opened the second bag and pulled out a new sketchbook and a box of crayons. Nothing expensive, nothing extravagant, but Maya's eyes shone as if it were gold. "For me, for you." Maya hugged the book to her chest, then looked at her mother, asking for silent permission. "You can accept it, sweetie," Callie said, her voice low. "Thank you," Maya said, already opening the book carefully, as if it were too fragile. Silas stood up, took the fruit out of the other bag. Apples, bananas, oranges. He put everything on the shelf. "You didn't have to," Callie said. "I know, but I wanted to bring it." She didn't argue. She was learning that Silas didn't do things expecting something in return. He simply did them. They sat down. Maya was engrossed in the new drawings. Silas and Callie were silent for a moment, but it was a comfortable silence. "How have the last few days been?" he asked. "I kept looking for work. Nothing yet." "It will happen." "I hope so." Callie looked at him. Silas looked different, more relaxed. The usual dress shirt, but without the formal air. He seemed more human. "Can I ask you a question?" Silas said, carefully. "You can. Did you have a job before?" "I mean, a steady job," Callie sighed. She didn't like talking about it, but with Silas, for some reason, it didn't seem so hard. "I did. I was a cleaner." "Where?" "In an office building. I cleaned offices, meeting rooms. It was a good job, paid on time." "And what happened?" Callie looked at her own hands. Her nails short, her skin dry from scrubbing floors so much. "They fired me." "Why?" She hesitated, then took a deep breath. A watch went missing, from one of the offices. An expensive designer watch. They said I was the only one who had entered the room that day. "And you did go in?" "I did, to clean." "Like I always did." Her voice had a tone of contained defensiveness. "But I didn't take anything. I just cleaned, wiped down the desk, took out the trash, straightened the chairs. That's all." Silas listened in silence, attentive to every word. "But no one believed me," Callie continued, her voice getting softer. The manager called me into his office. He said the owner was traveling, but they needed to resolve it quickly. They asked if I had taken it. I said no. They asked to search my bag. I let them. There was nothing. But even so, they fired me. Even without proof. They said it was precaution, that they couldn't risk it, that I was the only one who had access. She gave a bitter smile. Funny how we're always the easiest ones to blame, isn't it? What was the name of the company? Silas asked, his voice strangely controlled. Monroe Enterprises. It was on the 10th floor, big, beautiful office. I had been cleaning there for almost 2 years. Silas became completely still. Callie didn't notice. She kept talking, letting out what she had kept bottled up for so long. I liked that job. It was hard work, but I liked it. You know when you feel like you're doing something right? It was like that. I would arrive early in the morning, leave everything spotless. The people were polite to me. Some even left tips sometimes. She paused. And then, all of a sudden, I was a thief. No chance to defend myself, no investigation, nothing. When was this? Silas asked, his voice still very controlled. About 4 months ago. 4 months. Yes. Since then, I've been looking for something else. But when they ask for a reference, I don't have one, and when they don't ask, they still don't call. She laughed without humor. It's like I disappeared. Silas ran a hand over his face. He took a deep breath. He was processing something much bigger than Callie imagined. Callie, he said, finally, I need to tell you something. She looked at him, confused by his tone. Monroe Enterprises, he continued, looking directly at her. It's mine. The silence that fell was deafening. Callie blinked, once, twice, trying to understand. What? The company. It's mine. I'm the owner. She was paralyzed. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. You're... I was traveling at the time, Silas said, his voice low, heavy. I was gone for almost a month. When I returned, they told me they had resolved a theft incident. They said they had fired the person responsible. I didn't even question it. I trusted their word. He closed his eyes for a second. I trusted them, and I was wrong. Callie couldn't speak. She felt her chest tight, her throat closed. I didn't know it was you, Silas continued. Shine, I didn't know your full name. I hadn't seen your face. To me, it was just another report that I signed without a second thought. You... Callie tried, but her voice failed. And now I'm here, and you're telling me you were wronged, that you lost your job for something you didn't do, and I... He ran a hand through his hair, visibly shaken. So I was responsible for that. Callie stood up. She took a few steps back. She needed space. She needed to process. So you knew, she asked, her voice trembling. This whole time, you knew. No, I swear I didn't. Silas also stood up, but didn't approach. I only knew now when you said the company's name. And now? Callie asked, feeling the tears threaten. Silas, what changes? Everything, Silas said firmly. I'm going to investigate. I'm going to find out what really happened. I'm going to review everything. Cameras, reports, everything. Why bother? It's over. I've already been judged. No, you were wronged, and I'm going to fix it. Callie looked at him. She saw the determination in his brown eyes. She saw something she hadn't seen in anyone for a long time. Justice. Why? She asked softly. Why do you care? Silas took a step forward. He stopped. He chose his words carefully. Because you deserved better. Because your daughter deserved better. And because I have the power to do something about it. Maya, who had stopped drawing, watched the two adults, not fully understanding, but sensing that something important was happening. Callie took a deep breath. She felt the tears finally fall. I just wanted to work, she said, her voice breaking. I just wanted to support my daughter. I know, Silas said softly, and you will have that chance again. I promise. She stared at him, trying to decide if she could trust him, if she could believe him. And then, slowly, she nodded. Okay, Silas sighed, relieved. I'll start tomorrow. I'll pull everything up. And I will find the truth. Callie wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Thank you. You don't need to thank me, it's the least I can do. They stood there, in the silence of that small room, with the noise of the fan and the sound of Maya's crayons in the background, and Callie, for the second time since meeting Silas, felt something grow inside her. It wasn't just hope this time, it was the real possibility of justice. Silas entered Monroe Enterprises the next morning with a purpose he hadn't felt in a long time. The building was imposing, glass and steel reflecting the sun. He greeted the security guard at the reception with a nod and went straight to the elevator, 10th floor. The doors opened and he walked across the hallway. Employees greeted him, surprised to see him so early. Silas rarely showed up before 9, but today it was 7:30. He entered his office, turned on the computer, and picked up the phone. Margaret, I need to speak with you now. Margaret was the HR manager. A woman in her early 50s, efficient, always impeccable. She arrived in 5 minutes, tablet under her arm. Good morning, Silas. Is something wrong? Sit down. She sat down, sensing the serious tone. I need you to bring me all the reports regarding a termination that happened 4 months ago. A cleaning employee. Margaret blinked, confused. Cleaning? What name? Callie? She typed something on the tablet. She frowned. Callie Morrison, terminated in June for suspected theft. Suspected, Silas repeated, emphasizing the word. I want to see everything. Incident report, statements, camera footage, everything. Margaret hesitated. Silas, this was resolved at the time. The operations manager handled everything while you were traveling. I know, and now I want to review it. But, Margaret, everything. Now. She swallowed hard, nodded, and left. Silas leaned back in his chair, running his hands over his face. 4 months. 4 months that Callie was out looking for work, raising a child alone, going hungry. While he signed papers without questioning, the door opened again. It was Margaret, accompanied by Thomas, the operations manager, a man in his 40s, always very proper, always a problem solver. Silas, Thomas said, extending his hand. Margaret told me you want to review the employee's case. I do. May I ask why? Everything was handled appropriately at the time. I decide what is appropriate, Silas said dryly. Where are the reports? Margaret placed the tablet on the table, opening some files. Here. Incident report. On June 12th, Mr. Pembroke's watch went missing from his office. Estimated value $12,000. Employee Callie Morrison was the only person who entered the room that day, according to the access log. According to the log, Silas repeated. What about the cameras? Thomas coughed. The hallway cameras were undergoing maintenance that week. How convenient. It was a coincidence. It was already scheduled. And the camera in the room. There are no cameras inside individual offices. Privacy policy. Silas clenched his teeth. So you terminated an employee based on what, exactly? On the access log, Thomas said, as if it were obvious. She entered at 7:15 in the morning. The watch was there at 7. By 8 is when Pembroke arrived, it was gone. And you searched her. Yes, we found nothing. And you still fired her. Margaret looked uncomfortable. It was a preventive decision. Pembroke insisted heavily. He said he didn't want her near his things anymore. Pembroke insisted, Silas repeated, his voice icy. And you simply complied. Silas, understand, Thomas said, trying to sound reasonable. The woman had no way to prove her innocence. And Pembroke is an important client. He maintains 3 large contracts with us. We couldn't risk... Risk what? The truth. Silence. You sacrificed an employee so as not to inconvenience a client. It was a business decision, Thomas said firmly. It was cowardice, Silas countered. And I want to see the footage, all of it. The hallway ones were deleted, Margaret said softly. Standard protocol. After 60 days, everything is erased to free up space. How convenient, Silas said again. And the entrance ones? The reception? We have those. Then bring them to me. Thomas exchanged a look with Margaret. Silas, honestly, I don't see any reason to reopen this. It was handled. The woman was compensated according to the law. How much? Pardon. How much did you pay her? Margaret checked the tablet. The equivalent of 1 month's salary. Silas gave a humorless laugh. 1 month, you destroyed her reputation, took away her livelihood, and paid her 1 month's salary. It's what the law requires, Thomas said, defensively. The law requires the minimum. I expected this company to do more than the minimum. He stood up, taking the tablet from Margaret's hands. I will review everything myself. I want complete access to the files, and I want to speak with the security guard who was on duty that day. He doesn't work here anymore, Thomas said. He was fired 2 weeks later. Silas stopped. Why? Unsatisfactory performance. How convenient, Silas said for the 3rd time. Everything is very convenient, very clean, very resolved. He looked at the two of them. Get out, now. They left without questioning. Silas was left alone in the office, looking at the tablet screen. He began to read every line of the report, every detail. And the more he read, the more he realized there was no investigation. There was a cover-up. Everything was handled too quickly, too efficiently, as if the goal was to close the case, not find the truth. The watch disappeared. The blame fell on the easiest person. The person who couldn't defend herself, the person no one would question, Callie. He picked up the phone, called the IT department. I need you to recover all the footage from June. All of it. I don't care if it was deleted. I want you to try to restore it. Sir, that could take days, and there's no guarantee. Then start now. He hung up. He opened a spreadsheet. He started making a timeline. Who entered? Who left? Who had access? Who had a motive? Pembroke, the owner of the watch. Why was he so eager to blame someone? Why did he insist so much on the termination? Thomas, the manager. Why did he resolve everything so quickly? Why didn't he question it? The security guard, fired 2 weeks later. Coincidence? Silas spent the next 3 hours immersed in documents, spreadsheets, records. He ordered coffee. He didn't even touch it. He was focused. Something was wrong, very wrong, and he was going to find out what. The afternoon arrived. His cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. He answered, Mr. Monroe? A male voice. I'm from IT. We managed to recover some of the footage, but there's something strange. What? Some files were corrupted. On purpose. Silas felt his blood run cold. Are you sure? I am. Someone tried to erase them, but not completely. We managed to restore about 70%. Sending it to your email now. Thank you. Silas opened the email. He downloaded the files. He started watching. 10th floor hallway, 7 in the morning. Callie appears. Cleaning cart. She enters Pembroke's office. The image is grainy, but it's visible. She enters, stays inside for about 20 minutes. She leaves. Cart still full of supplies. Nothing in her hands. Silas rewound the video, watched it again and again. Callie didn't take anything. He fast-forwarded, 8:10 in the morning. Another person enters the hallway. The image is more corrupted, but it's visible. A woman, an employee. She enters Pembroke's office. She leaves 5 minutes later, carrying something small in her purse. Silas paused. He zoomed in. The quality was poor, but he could see enough. It wasn't Callie. He felt the anger rise, pure, hot. They knew. Or at least, someone knew. And they let Callie take the blame anyway. Silas saved the file, made a backup, sent it to a personal email. Then he picked up the phone and called Margaret again. I need the names of all the female employees who worked on the 10th floor in June. Silas, there are almost 30, all of them, with a photo. Now. He hung up before she could reply. He leaned back in the chair, took a deep breath. The truth had been ignored, not due to incompetence, due to convenience, and now he was going to expose everything. For Callie, for Maya, for all the people who are discarded when they become inconvenient. He wasn't going to let this go, not at all. 2 days later, Silas returned. This time it wasn't just about the investigation. He brought fruit again. Fresh strawberries, green grapes, ripe pears, and a bag with things for Maya. More drawing paper, fine-tipped colored markers, a storybook with a colorful cover. He knocked on the door late in the afternoon. The sun was already starting to set, painting the sky orange. Callie opened it, her eyes still tired but a little lighter than last time. "Hi." "Hi," Silas replied, holding up the bags. "May I come in?" "Of course." He entered slowly, as he always did, respecting that small space. Maya was sitting on the floor, drawing with the crayons he had brought before. When she saw Silas, her face completely lit up. "Silas," he smiled, crouching down to her height, resting one knee on the floor. "Hi, little one, I brought you more things to draw." "Really? Really?" He opened the bag and showed her. Maya's jaw dropped, picking up each item with that exaggerated care children have for new things, as if they were too fragile to exist in this world. "Thank you," she said, pressing the markers to her chest. "You're welcome, Maya." Callie watched from the doorway, her arms crossed, but with a small smile on her face. There was something comforting in seeing her daughter so happy with so little, and there was something even more comforting in seeing that Silas wasn't doing it out of obligation. He truly cared. Silas stood up and looked at her. "I brought fruit too. You're going to end up spending a fortune on us," she said, but without the defensive tone from before. It was more of a tease now. "It's not a fortune. It's the basics, and I like doing it." She didn't argue. She just took the fruit and carefully placed it on the shelf, organizing everything neatly. Silas sat on one of the cardboard boxes that served as a chair. Callie sat on the edge of the bed, her legs crossed. Maya stayed on the floor, already testing the new markers, making colorful, firm strokes on the white paper. "And the investigation?" Callie asked, softly, so Maya wouldn't hear clearly. "It's progressing. I found some things. I'll tell you everything when I'm absolutely sure. I don't want to raise your hopes if it's not concrete." She nodded, trusting him. It was strange to trust again, but with Silas, it felt natural. They were silent for a moment. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that exists between people who are starting to genuinely get to know each other, without rush, without masks. The fan whirred. Maya hummed softly as she drew. The late afternoon light poured through the small window, golden and soft. "Silas," Maya called, without taking her eyes off the paper. "Yes? I made a drawing for you." He blinked, genuinely surprised. "For me?" "Uh-huh." She carefully finished coloring something, her tongue sticking out in concentration. Then she stood up and brought the paper to him, full of pride, holding it with both hands. Silas took it gently, as if it were something precious. It was a simple drawing, done with markers. 3 people, a tall blonde woman in a dress, a small blonde girl holding her hand, and a tall, dark-haired man on the other side. The 3 were holding hands, forming a chain. Above them, a big yellow sun with rays in all directions. Below, green grass and scattered colored flowers. Silas felt something strongly tighten in his chest, an emotion he couldn't name. "Is this the 3 of us?" he asked, his voice lower and more choked up than he intended. "Yes, you, me, and Mommy." He turned the paper over slowly. On the back, in a crooked but careful child's handwriting, written with care and affection, was, "It's nice when you come here." Silas went completely quiet. He looked at the drawing. He looked at Maya, who was smiling expectantly. He looked at Callie, whose eyes were teary but who was also smiling. "Maya," he said, his voice faltering a little, his eyes moist, This is the most beautiful drawing anyone has ever made for me in my whole life." "Really?" "Yes." "Absolutely," she smiled, satisfied and proud, and went back to the floor to draw more things. Silas folded the paper with extreme care, as if it were an important document, and placed it in his shirt pocket, right next to his heart. Then he lightly touched the pocket, as if checking if it was still there, if it was real. Callie noticed the gesture. She noticed the genuine emotion. She realized that this successful man, a company owner, was holding a child's drawing as if it were gold. "She likes you," Callie said softly, almost a whisper. "I like her too." Silas looked at Callie with gentle intensity. "I like both of you." It wasn't a romantic declaration. It wasn't an impossible promise. It was just the truth, spoken simply and honestly. Callie felt her chest warm up. She felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Security, not financial, emotional. "Would you like some coffee?" she asked. "I'd love some." She stood up, went to the makeshift corner that served as a kitchen. She heated water on a small and old electric stove, prepared the coffee carefully, measuring precisely. She brought 2 completely mismatched mugs, one faded blue, the other white with a visible crack in the handle. Silas accepted the cracked mug without flinching, without even looking at the crack. They drank coffee in comfortable silence. Maya hummed softly as she drew. The fan spun, making that rhythmic, familiar sound. The late afternoon light came through the small window, painting everything in soft gold. And Silas realized something profound. He didn't want to be anywhere else, not in the office with the panoramic view, not in important meetings, not at business dinners in expensive restaurants. Right here, in that tiny, cramped room, with makeshift furniture but full of something real, with a struggling woman who was raising her daughter alone with dignity, and a child who drew as if the world was made only of colors and hope. "What are you thinking about?" Callie asked, noticing his distant, contemplative gaze. Silas smiled slowly. "That I like being here." "Here?" She looked around as if trying to see what he saw. "In this cramped little room. It's not about the size of the space. It's about the people in it." Callie was speechless. She looked at him, truly looked, trying to understand this man who appeared out of nowhere, at the most difficult time, and turned their lives upside down. But in a good way. "You're different," she said, finally. "Different how?" "Different from everyone I've ever met. You don't want anything in return. You don't demand anything. You don't make us feel small. You're just here. There's nothing I want in return. He hesitated, choosing his words. "I just want to be present. If you'll let me." Callie felt her eyes sting again, but they were good tears this time. "You can. Always." And in that moment, without big words or impossible promises, without dramatic declarations, something changed between them. The connection that already existed grew stronger, more solid, more real. A week later, Callie did something she hadn't done in a very, very long time. She invited someone to dinner. Silas had visited 3 more times during the week. He always brought something small and thoughtful. Fruit, fresh bread, sometimes a simple toy for Maya, a book. Never anything extravagant or excessive, always things that made sense, that filled real needs. And that day, as he was saying goodbye, Callie lightly held his arm. "Silas," he turned, looking at her hand on his arm, then at her eyes. Would you like to have dinner with us tomorrow? Here." He blinked, genuinely surprised. "Dinner? Yes. Nothing fancy. Just simple homemade food." "If you want to come." Silas smiled that way that made his eyes sparkle, that smile that transformed his whole face. "I would love to, seriously." The next day, Callie spent the entire afternoon cooking. She made pasta with homemade meatballs, nothing sophisticated, nothing restaurant quality, but made with care and affection. She didn't have much, but she used what she had in the best way possible. She seasoned it right, tasted it several times, adjusted the salt. She arranged the cardboard box that served as a table. She put a clean cloth over it, spotless, pulled taut. 2 glass cups, completely different from each other, but clean and shining against the light. Paper napkins neatly folded. Old cutlery, but polished until it gleamed. Maya helped, very excited, placing a new drawing in the center of the table as a decoration. It was a drawing of colorful flowers. When Silas arrived, promptly at 7 in the evening, he brought a bottle of grape juice and a simple cake from the bakery, carefully wrapped. "I couldn't come empty-handed," he said. Callie smiled, taking the items. "You didn't have to, but thank you." They sat down. The table was cramped, too small for 3 people, their knees almost touching underneath. Maya sat on a cushion on the floor, her own bowl of pasta in her lap, happy. Callie served carefully, steaming pasta, round and perfect homemade meatballs, simple but fragrant tomato sauce. Nothing fancy, but made with love. Silas took the first bite. He chewed slowly, closed his eyes for a second. "This is delicious, Callie. Seriously." "It's simple," she said, slightly embarrassed, looking at her own plate. "Simple is good. Simple is real. Simple is what matters." They ate slowly. Maya told animated stories about the school she had started attending. Silas had helped with the enrollment, discreetly, without fanfare. She talked about her new classmates, the kind teacher, the drawings she made in art class. Callie listened, smiling, happy to see her daughter talking about normal childhood things, friends, games, teachers. The silence between them, when it came, was comfortable. They didn't need to fill every second with words. They were just together, existing in the same space, and that was enough. When they finished eating, Maya was sleepy, her eyes heavy. Callie put her to sleep on the mattress, covered her with the blanket, kissed her forehead tenderly, brushing the blonde hair from her face. She returned to the table. Silas was still there, slowly finishing his juice, looking out the small window. "Thank you for dinner," he said when she sat down. It was special. Thank you for coming. For being here." They were silent for a long moment. Then Silas spoke, looking at the glass in his hands. "You know, Callie, success gave me almost everything. Money, stability, respect, recognition. But it never gave me this." "This what?" He looked at her. "Time with someone real. Real time. Without masks. Without hidden agendas." Callie looked at him, seeing the raw vulnerability in his brown eyes. "I built a company from the ground up. I closed big deals. I traveled the world. I achieved things I never dreamed of when I was young. But I never stopped. I never sat at a simple table with homemade food and felt at home. Truly." He looked around the small room. "Until now." Callie felt her heart warm. In a good way, in a way that comforted. "You are always welcome here, Silas. Always. Even though I'm the guy who fired you, who signed that paper. You didn't know, and you're trying to fix it. You're investigating. You're looking for the truth that matters." "That matters a lot." He nodded, clearly grateful, clearly moved. They talked softly for over an hour, about everything and nothing, about Callie's difficult childhood, raised by a grandmother who did her best, but it wasn't easy, about Silas's loneliness despite all the success, the business dinners where he didn't truly know anyone, about Maya and her endless drawings, about colors and dreams, about life and its strange twists and turns, about how people find each other at the most unexpected times. When Silas finally stood up to leave, it was already past 10. Callie walked him to the door. "Silas." He turned, his hand on the doorknob. She gave him a small but genuine smile, loaded with meaning. "Not everyone knows how to eat pasta like it's a gift." He blinked, processing the words, feeling their weight. Then he smiled back, that smile that transformed everything. "Because it was a gift. Truly. The best I've received in a long time." And he left, closing the door softly, carrying Maya's drawing in his shirt pocket and something on his chest that he didn't know he had been looking for all that time. The feeling of belonging somewhere, the feeling of having a family. Even if he couldn't quite name it yet, Silas was alone in the office. It was already past 8 in the evening. The building was empty, silent. Only the light in his office remained on, a luminous square in the darkness. On the computer screen, the video was loading slowly. The IT team had managed to restore the footage, not all of it, but enough. Enough for the truth to emerge. Silas pressed play. The image was grainy, but visible. 10th floor hallway, 7:15 in the morning. Date, June 12th. Callie appears on the screen, pushing the cleaning cart, that old metal cart full of products, cloths, buckets. She is wearing a simple blue uniform, blonde hair tied in a bun. She walks briskly but not frantically. She stops in front of Pembroke's office door, takes the master key from her pocket, opens it. She enters. Silas paused, rewound, looked again. Callie enters only with the cart, nothing in her hands, nothing in her visible pockets. He pressed play again. Time runs in the corner of the screen. Silas watches, attentive to every second. 7:17, 7:20, 7:25. At 7:32, Callie leaves, pushing the cart. Nothing in her hands. Nothing in her pockets. Nothing hidden. Her hands are visible, holding the cart. She closes the door, locks it, proceeds to the next office. Silas rewound the video, watched it again and again. Callie didn't take anything. He fast-forwarded the video. 8 o'clock, 8:05. The hallway remains empty for a while. Then, at 8:12, a figure appears. A woman, younger than Callie. Dark hair tied in a ponytail, also in a uniform but a different one. She wasn't from cleaning. She was from administration. Grey skirt, white blouse. Silas paused. He zoomed in as much as he could. The quality was poor, but he recognized the face. Amanda Cortez, administrative assistant. She worked in the finance department. She looks around, quickly, nervously. Then she takes a key from her pocket, not the master key, a specific key. She opens the door to Pembroke's office. She enters. Silas felt his blood boil. Time runs. 8:13, 8:14, 8:15. At 8:16, Amanda leaves. And this time, she has something in her hand. A watch. Large. Silver. Clearly visible even in the grainy footage. Silas paused the image. He zoomed in as much as possible. There it was. The watch in her right hand. Unmistakable. He pressed play again. Amanda looks down the hallway, nervous. Then, quickly, she puts the watch in her skirt pocket. The pocket bulges slightly. She adjusts it, trying to conceal it. She closes the door. Looks around again, and hurries off, her hand on her pocket as if holding something. Silas paused the video again. He stared at the screen, at the frozen image of Amanda with her hand in her pocket, her face slightly turned away, hurrying out. The proof was there, clear, undeniable. He saved the file, made 3 backups, sent it to 2 different email addresses. Then he opened the human resources system. He typed the name, Amanda Cortez. Her file appeared. Hired 3 years ago, junior administrative assistant, average salary. And something caught Silas's attention. 2 written warnings, one for misuse of company resources, the other for unauthorized access to confidential files. Silas clenched his teeth. She already had a history. And yet no one investigated, no one questioned, because it was easier to blame Callie, the cleaning lady, the woman without a voice, the woman no one would defend. He picked up the phone, called the head of security. I need you to come to the office. Now. Sir, it's late. Now. He hung up. Half an hour later, the head of security was there. Silas showed him the video. He paused at the part where Amanda leaves with the watch in her hand, then putting it in her pocket. It's clearly visible, Silas said. his voice controlled but furious. The man looked shocked. "It's undeniable, Mr. Munro. I want her complete entry record for that day, times, accesses, everything." The man quickly typed. He brought up the information. Amanda had checked into the building at 7:45. She had accessed the 10th floor at 8:052 using her badge. She had left the building at 8:23. Everything perfectly matched the video. "I want her here tomorrow, first thing in the morning." "Sir, first thing." The man nodded and left. Silas was left alone again. He looked at the computer screen, at the frozen image of Callie pushing the cart, innocent, just doing her job. And he felt a rage he hadn't felt in years. The next morning, at 8 sharp, Amanda was called to Silas's office. She entered nervously. Silas was sitting behind his desk, his expression closed, serious. "Sit down." She sat down, her hands trembling slightly. "Is something wrong, Mr. Munro?" Silas didn't answer immediately. He just rotated his computer monitor for her to see. He pressed play. Amanda watched. Her face turned pale, very pale. The video showed everything. Callie entering and leaving, empty-handed, then Amanda entering. Leaving with the watch in her hand, putting it in her pocket. Silas paused exactly on the image of her with the watch in her hand. "Would you care to explain this?" Silence. "Amanda, I asked you a question." She started to cry, not hard. Just silent tears rolling down. I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? Steal. Or let someone else take the blame. "It was Pembroke," she said, her voice thin. He asked me to." Silas went very quiet. "Explain that properly." Amanda took a shaky breath. "He asked me to take his watch. He said he was going to file a fraudulent insurance claim. He said the watch was old. He wanted to buy a new one, but he needed the insurance money. He promised me 10% of the value, and you accepted. I needed the money. I have debts. And when it went wrong, when they discovered it was missing, you stayed silent. You let Callie take the blame." Amanda lowered her head. "Pembroke said he would handle it. He said no one would get hurt. He said she was just a cleaner, that she would easily find another job. Just a cleaner," Silas repeated, his voice cold as ice. "As if her life was worth less, as if it didn't matter. I'm sorry. I truly am. You destroyed a woman's life, a single mother with a small child. You took her job, her reputation, you left her destitute. And for what? 10% of a watch." Amanda was crying harder now, but Silas felt no pity. "Where is the watch?" "Pembroke took it back. He must have sold it." Silas picked up the phone. He called legal. "Prepare a lawsuit against Michael Pembroke for insurance fraud and misrepresentation, and a termination for cause for Amanda Cortez." He hung up. He looked at her. "You will write a letter, confessing everything, completely exonerating Callie. You will sign it. You will have it notarized, and you will deliver it to me by the end of the day." "Sir, it's not a request. It's an order. If you don't do it, I will sue you too, for complicity, for false testimony, for everything I can get. Understood?" She nodded, defeated. "Now get out, and leave your ID at the reception. You no longer work here." Amanda stumbled out, still crying. Silas leaned back in the chair. He ran his hands over his face. Callie had been right all along, and no one believed her. No one truly investigated. He wasn't going to let it rest. Late in the afternoon, Amanda delivered the letter. 3 pages confessing everything, signed, notarized. Silas read every word, every admission of guilt, every detail. Then he prepared a folder. Inside, he placed Amanda's letter, a copy of the restored video, a new employment contract for Callie as a cleaning supervisor, with a salary 3 times what she used to earn, a severance check, a significant amount. More than enough to cover the month she was unemployed and then some, and a document guaranteeing a full scholarship for Maya. Private school, up to university, all paid for. Silas looked at the folder. He took a deep breath, and he went to Callie's place. He knocked on the door at 7 in the evening. Callie opened it, surprised to see him so early. Usually, he came later. "Silas, is something wrong? May I come in?" "Of course." He entered. Maya was drawing, as usual. She looked up and smiled. "Hi, Silas." "Hi, little one." Callie noticed something different about him, something serious, important. "Sit down," she said. He sat. He placed the folder on top of the box that served as a table. Maya noticed the tension and stayed quiet, watching. "Callie," Silas began, "I found the truth, all of it." She stood motionless. "I have proof, video, confession, everything." He opened the folder. He showed the video on the tablet he brought. Callie watched, her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. She saw herself entering and leaving, empty-handed, just doing her job. She saw Amanda entering. She saw Amanda leaving with the watch in her hand, clearly visible. She saw Amanda putting the watch in her pocket. When it finished, she was trembling. I was right, all along." "You were, and I am so sorry, truly sorry, for not investigating earlier, for trusting the wrong people, for letting this happen to you." He took Amanda's letter. He handed it to Callie. She read it. Every word, tears began to fall. She confessed. Everything. She confessed, and she was fired, and Pembroke will face criminal charges. Callie couldn't stop crying. Silas took out the new contract. "This is for you, if you want to come back. Not as a cleaner, as a supervisor. You will manage the cleaning team, a decent salary, full benefits, respect." She took the paper with trembling hands. She read it, re-read it. "Silas, it's the least you deserve." He took out the check. "This is your compensation for the months you were wronged, for the suffering, for everything." Callie looked at the amount, and she cried even harder. "And this," Silas took out the last document, "is a full scholarship for Maya, private school, up to university, all guaranteed, forever." Callie couldn't hold back. She completely collapsed. She cried loudly, holding the papers, her whole body shaking. Maya stood up, frightened, and ran to her mother. "Mommy, why are you crying?" "It's okay, sweetie," Callie said between sobs. "It's okay. These are good tears." Maya looked at Silas, trying to understand. And then, without warning, she ran to him and hugged him tightly, very tightly, squeezing with all the strength a 5-year-old has. Silas froze for a second. Then he lowered his arms and hugged her back, pressing her against his chest, feeling his heart race. "Thank you for helping my mommy," Maya said, her voice muffled against his shirt. Silas closed his eyes, too emotional to speak. Callie stood up, wiped her tears and looked at him with a gratitude so deep it couldn't be expressed in words. "Thank you," she managed to say. "Thank you for believing me, for investigating, for not giving up." "You deserved the truth," Silas said, still holding Maya. "You always did." Maya let go of him and ran to her drawings. She picked up a new one. She brought it to Silas. It was a drawing of the three of them again, but this time everyone was smiling. And at the top, written in careful handwriting, "Now we can start." Silas looked at the drawing. He looked at Maya. He looked at Callie. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was exactly where he should be, doing exactly what he should be doing, fixing what was broken, and building something new, something true, something that felt very, very much like family. Callie's first day as a supervisor started with butterflies in her stomach. She woke up before the alarm clock at 5 in the morning. She lay there for a moment, looking at the cracked ceiling of the small room, trying to believe that this was real, that she actually had a new job, a real position. She got up carefully so as not to wake Maya, who was sleeping soundly on the mattress, hugging a teddy bear that Silas had given her. She took a quick shower in the communal bathroom of the boarding house. She put on the black dress pants and white blouse that Silas had insisted on buying. She tied her blonde hair in a neat, professional bun. She looked in the small, cracked mirror. The woman looking back was different from the one who had been fired months ago. This woman held her head high, her shoulders back, a light in her eyes that wasn't there before. When she arrived at Monroe Enterprises at 6:30, the sun had barely risen. The building was still almost empty. She walked through the glass doors, and the security guard at the reception smiled. "Good morning, Ms. Morrison." "Good morning, Paul." She had made sure to learn his name, the name of every person who worked there, because she knew how much it hurt to be invisible. She went up to the 10th floor. Her footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. She stopped in front of the door that read, "Callie Morrison, Cleaning Supervisor." She ran her fingers slowly over the plaque. She read it again and again. It was real. She entered the small office. There was a desk, a computer, a narrow window, a small plant in the corner. It wasn't big, but it was hers. She sat in the chair. She placed her hands on the desk. She took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she belonged somewhere. The first meeting with the team was at 7 in the morning. 12 people sat around an old table in the basement meeting room. Some were older than her. Others had years of experience. Callie was nervous, but she didn't let it show. "Good morning. My name is Callie Morrison, and I am the new supervisor." She looked at every face. "Some of you might be wondering who I am, so I'll be honest. I used to work here. I did the same job you do. I cleaned bathrooms, washed floors, emptied trash for almost 2 years, and I was unjustly fired." The silence was heavy. "I was accused of something I didn't do. I went months without work, without knowing how I would feed my daughter, so I know exactly what this job is like. I know what it's like for no one to see you, no one to thank you. But I will see you. I will hear you, because I have been where you are." Mrs. Rodriguez, an older woman with grey hair, raised her hand. "Are you the lady with the watch?" "I am." "And they proved you were innocent?" "They did." Mrs. Rodriguez nodded, satisfied. "Welcome back." And so it began. Callie worked hard. She didn't just stay in the office. She was with the team. When supplies were low, she tracked them down. When someone needed to leave early, she reorganized everything. When there was a problem, she solved it. She learned everyone's name, their stories, their difficulties. Mrs. Rodriguez was raising 3 grandchildren alone. Carlos was paying for medicine for his sick mother. Julia dreamed of going to college but didn't have the money. And when she could, Callie helped, with information, with flexibility, with listening. In a few weeks, the team respected her. More than that, they liked her. Silas noticed. Other supervisors commented on the positive change. He smiled discreetly, proud. Maya started her new school on a sunny Monday. Callie led her by the hand. The little girl wore a new uniform, a pink backpack on her back, her eyes shining with anxiety mixed with fear. "It's going to be fun, sweetie. You'll make friends. What if no one likes me? It's impossible not to like you." At the classroom door, the teacher, Ms. Clara, introduced herself. Young, friendly, full of energy. "Hi, Maya. It's great to have you here. Come, I'll show you your little desk." Maya looked at her mother, asking for silent courage. Callie knelt down. "Go on. When it's over, I'll be here waiting for you. I promise." Maya took a deep breath and walked in. Brave. Callie stood watching through the window in the door. She saw her daughter sit down, pick up crayons, and start talking to another girl. Within minutes, the two were laughing together. Tears rolled down Callie's face. But they were good tears. Her daughter had a real school now. She had a future. She had chances. Silas remained present, but with balance. He didn't intrude. He didn't smother. He was there, constant, but respectful. He showed up 2-3 times a week. He always called first. He always asked if he could come over. Sometimes he brought fruit, sometimes fresh bread. Sometimes he just came for the company. They drank coffee together. They talked about the day. Callie talked about work. Maya about school. Silas about the company. Simple conversations, normal, real. Maya always ran to hug him when he arrived. She showed him new drawings, asked him to read stories, and Silas always accepted. He sat on the floor, reading with funny voices. Maya laughed until she hiccuped. Callie watched from afar, smiling. The visits became routine, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Silas would show up after work. He would stay for an hour or two. He helped Maya with homework. He talked to Callie while she cooked. Sundays were special. He took the two of them out. A park. An ice cream shop. A bookstore. Nothing expensive, just time together. It was on one of those Sundays that Maya started calling him Uncle Silas. They were in the park, eating ice cream, when she naturally blurted out, "Uncle Silas, look at that dog." Silas froze. He looked at Callie, surprised. Maya noticed. "Can I call you Uncle?" Silas felt his eyes sting. He knelt down, getting to her height. "You can call me whatever you want, little one, and I love an Uncle Silas." Maya smiled and went back to her ice cream, but that moment changed something. It gave a name to what they already were. Callie changed too. The worry lines on her face began to disappear. She smiled more. She slept better. She ate with pleasure. She had plans again. She and Maya moved out of the boarding house room. They got a small apartment just for them, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room. Simple, but clean and cozy. Maya had a real bed now, toys on a shelf, drawings on the wall. Callie had a real dining table, a working stove, a full refrigerator. It wasn't luxury, but it was dignity. And Silas kept showing up. Now at the new apartment, he helped paint the wall in Maya's bedroom. He assembled the new bed. He hung curtains. He didn't do it out of obligation. He did it because he wanted to be there. On a Thursday evening, Callie made dinner. Rice, beans, roast chicken. The table was set. Clean tablecloth, neat plates, gleaming glasses. When Silas arrived, Maya ran to the door. "Uncle Silas, Mommy made delicious food." He walked in, smelled the good aroma. "It smells wonderful." The three of them sat around the table. It wasn't big, it wasn't expensive, but it was full of food, full of conversation, full of laughter. Maya told stories from school, gesturing dramatically. Callie laughed, correcting the details. Silas listened, smiling, and in that simple moment, he realized something profound. He had spent years building a company, making money, achieving success, but he had never had this, a full table. People who wanted him there, a place to return to. There was no signed paper saying they were family. There was no official label. There was no formal commitment, but there was a bond, real, deep, true. Callie wasn't his girlfriend, Maya wasn't his daughter, but they were his people, and he was their person. After dinner, while Callie washed the dishes and Maya drew in the living room, Silas helped dry the plates. "Thank you," Callie said suddenly. "For what?" "For being here. For continuing to come. Many people would have disappeared after the problem was solved." "I didn't come here because of the problem." "Then why?" He stopped drying the plate. He looked at her. "Because here, I feel at home. Truly." Callie felt her chest warm. "You will always have a place here, Silas. Always." He smiled. And he realized he had found what he was always looking for. It wasn't money. It wasn't success. It wasn't recognition. It was belonging. It was having people who cared. It was having a home. When he left that night, after reading 3 stories to Maya and helping Callie tidy the kitchen, he looked back before closing the door. He saw Callie waving. He saw Maya run to give him one last hug, and he knew he had made the right choice. Investing in those 2 people, being present, building something real. It had no official name, it had no signed document, but it had love. It had a bond. It had family. And that was everything. The morning sun streamed through the gaps in the cheap but clean curtain, transforming the small apartment into a golden, cozy space. Callie woke up before the alarm clock, as she had been doing for the past few months. not out of anxiety or fear, like before, but because she cherished those quiet moments when she could feel the peace that had cost her so much to achieve. She stretched her arms and took a deep breath, feeling every muscle relax. That constant tension in her shoulders, that permanent knot in her stomach, had disappeared. In their place, a tranquility she never imagined she would know. The apartment was modest, just 2 bedrooms, a combined living room, kitchen, and a cramped bathroom. But it was clean, organized, and, most importantly, it was just theirs. They didn't have to share it with anyone. They didn't have to fear being evicted. It was a true home. Callie got up slowly so as not to wake Maya. She walked barefoot to the window and watched the neighborhood slowly waking up. It wasn't an upscale neighborhood, but it was safe, decent, the kind of place where you weren't ashamed to raise a daughter. In the refrigerator, a luxury that once seemed impossible, there was food. Not extravagances, just the basics. Milk, eggs, fruit, vegetables, bread. But for someone who had faced hunger, that represented an indescribable wealth. In the cabinet next to the stove, hidden behind some cans, there was a small blue box where Callie saved money. Still a small amount, but she deposited a portion of her salary there every month, for emergencies, for the future, for dreams she didn't even dare to form before. "Mommy?" Callie turned around. Maya was standing in the kitchen doorway, her messy blonde hair falling over her still sleepy blue eyes. She was wearing pink star-printed pajamas and clutching a well-loved teddy bear against her chest. "Good morning, my love. Did you sleep well?" Maya nodded, rubbing her eyes. "I dreamt we were flying." "Really? And where did we go?" "To the sky. There were cotton candy clouds." Maya smiled, showing the gap where her front teeth had fallen out. "Uncle Silas was there too. He was picking cotton candy from the clouds for me." Callie smiled. It was incredible how Silas appeared in almost all of Maya's stories and drawings lately, as if he had always been a part of their lives. "Come have breakfast. Today is a special day, remember?" Maya's eyes widened. "The chorus!" She jumped up and down, suddenly wide awake. "I'm going to sing today." "That's right. And we can't be late." Maya ran to the bathroom, suddenly full of energy. Callie heard the tap water running, the hurried brushing of teeth, the animated humming. She smiled as she prepared toast with jam and milk. In Maya's simple but cozy bedroom, there were toys on the shelves. Not many, not expensive, but enough. A cloth doll Callie had sewn by hand, colored blocks that Silas brought one Sunday, an animal puzzle. Children's books, some new, some used, all full of adventures that made her eyes sparkle. On the walls, dozens of drawings, the world through the eyes of a 5-year-old, colorful houses with smoking chimneys, flowers larger than trees, people holding hands under blue skies and smiling suns. Maya came running back, already dressed in her school uniform. Navy blue skirt, white blouse with the embroidered emblem on the chest. She sat at the table, swinging her legs that didn't reach the floor. "Is Uncle Silas going to see me sing today?" she asked, biting into her toast. "He is. He promised, didn't he?" Maya nodded, satisfied. "He never misses when he promises." It was true, Callie thought. Silas never made promises he couldn't keep. He never created expectations he wouldn't meet. When he said he would come, he came. When he promised to be present, he was. It was a constancy Callie had never known before. He continued to show up regularly, 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes he brought fresh fruit, big strawberries that Maya loved, sweet grapes, juicy pears. Other times he brought books, for Maya, stories of adventurous princesses, for Callie, novels and biographies to nourish her mind after tiring days, and often he brought nothing but himself. He would sit on the simple sofa, listen to Callie talk about work, about the small daily victories. He listened to Maya tell elaborate stories about school, about imaginary friends, about worlds that only existed in her head. He simply was present, constant as the sun rising every morning, an anchor in a sea that once seemed perpetually rough. They had never talked about what they were. They had never named that strange and beautiful relationship that had formed. There were no labels, demands, or declared expectations. There were just three people who, in some unpredictable way, fit together. Callie finished getting Maya ready. She carefully combed her blonde hair, making a high ponytail. She tied the blue ribbon that the teacher had requested for all the children in the chorus. "Do I look pretty?" Maya asked, twirling to show the result. "Beautiful. The most beautiful of all." Maya smiled, pleased. Then she looked at Callie, tilting her head. "You look pretty too, Mommy." Callie looked at her own reflection in the small living room mirror. She was wearing a light blue skirt and a simple, but well-pressed, white blouse. Her loose blonde hair fell in soft waves. A bit of lipstick, a rare occurrence. "Thank you, love." Her cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Silas. "Leaving work now. I'll be there in 15 minutes. She replied with a simple, "Okay," and put her phone away, feeling that familiar warmth in her chest. That feeling that had emerged gradually, without warning, and that she still hadn't dared to name. Exactly 15 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Maya ran to the door. "Uncle Silas." Silas was there, smiling that calm smile that lit up his brown eyes. He was wearing grey dress pants and a blue shirt, no tie. He held a small, wrapped gift in his hand. "Hi, little one." He crouched down, getting to her height. "Ready for the big day?" "I am. We're going to sing 4 songs. I know them all." "I'm sure you'll be the star of the show." Silas handed the wrapped gift to Maya, who took it with shining eyes. She opened it carefully as if it were a treasure. Inside was a small silver bracelet with a star charm. "It's for good luck," Silas explained, helping to put it on her delicate wrist. "Every artist needs her lucky star." Maya hugged Silas tightly, her little arms squeezing his neck. "It's the most beautiful thing ever." He laughed, hugging her back, his eyes meeting Callie's over the girl's shoulder. There was a silent communication there, a mutual understanding that grew every day. Silas stood up and greeted Callie with a soft kiss on the cheek. "Hi, all good. Everything's great. You look lovely." Callie felt her cheeks flush. "Thank you, and thank you for the gift. You didn't have to. I wanted to." He shrugged, as he always did when Callie thanked him. As if it were natural, as if it couldn't be any other way, they left together. Silas drove calmly, listening to Maya sing in the back seat, repeating the songs, claiming she wasn't nervous, but adjusting the ribbon in her hair every minute. The school was a 10-minute drive away. It was pretty well maintained, colorful walls, a large courtyard with trees and swings. A school Callie never imagined her daughter would attend. The auditorium was already full when they arrived. Entire families occupied the seats. Callie felt a momentary tightness in her chest, that old feeling of not belonging. But then Silas lightly placed his hand on her back, a subtle, comforting touch, and the feeling dissipated. Maya was taken backstage by the teacher, where the other children were getting ready. Callie and Silas got seats in the front row, side by side. "Nervous?" Silas asked softly. "A little. She's never performed in front of so many people." "She'll do great." "Maya has a natural light that everyone notices." Callie smiled, grateful not only for the words, but for the way Silas truly saw Maya, not as Callie's daughter, but as a complete person with her own worth. The lights dimmed. The murmur of conversations ceased. The principal stepped onto the stage, welcomed everyone, and spoke briefly about the importance of music in education. Callie barely listened, her heart racing with anticipation. And then the curtains opened. 15 children lined up on the stage, all in uniform, all with blue ribbons in their hair. But for Callie and Silas, only one truly mattered. Maya was in the middle, her little hands clasped in front of her body, her eyes scanning the audience until they found her mother and Silas in the front row. When she saw them, her face lit up with a smile so big, so genuine, that Callie felt her eyes well up immediately. The music began. It was about friendship, about welcoming others, about reaching out and opening hearts. The children's voices, not always in tune but always sincere, filled the auditorium with a purity that only children can convey. Maya sang with her whole body, not just with her voice, but with her eyes, with her hands, with that smile that lit up the stage. There was a joy so complete in her, so true that it was contagious. Callie looked at Silas. He was completely engrossed, his eyes fixed on Maya, bright with emotion. There was such genuine pride in his gaze that Callie felt her chest tighten, because he didn't have to be there. He wasn't Maya's father. He had no obligation or formal commitment. He chose to be present. He chose to be a part of it. He chose to care. The second song was more upbeat. The children moved, clapped their hands. Maya seemed to radiate her own light, her eyes always returning to the front row where her mother and Silas applauded and smiled. When the third song began, softer, about dreams and hope, Silas took Callie's hand in his, a natural gesture, as if it were the right place for their hands to be. She didn't pull away. They remained like that, fingers intertwined, while the children's voices filled the air. The performance ended with all the children singing together about friendship and the future. Callie could no longer hold back her tears, tears of joy, of gratitude, of a happiness she wasn't even sure she deserved, but which was there, real and palpable. The auditorium erupted in applause, everyone standing, proud. Callie and Silas too, still holding hands, applauding enthusiastically. The curtains opened again for the final thank you. The children made a clumsy and adorable bow. Maya looked with her eyes, found Callie and Silas, and waved discreetly, her whole face illuminated by her smile. When they were finally released, Maya ran off the stage, dodging adults, pushing her way through with determination until she reached Callie and Silas. She hugged her mother first, who lifted her off the ground in a tight embrace. "Did you see, Mummy? Did you see me singing?" "I did, my love. You were amazing." "The most beautiful of all." Maya smiled, her little eyes sparkling. Then she held out her arms to Silas, who picked her up without hesitation, lifting her high, making her burst into laughter. "And you, Uncle Silas? Did you like it?" "I loved it, little one. You are a true artist." Maya hugged his neck tightly. Then, still in his arms, she leaned back slightly to look directly into Silas's eyes and said, with that disarming honesty only a child possesses, "I don't have a daddy, but you're being one for me." Her small voice, but full of certainty, "You always come and you stay." Silas stood still. The emotion was so great that he couldn't answer. He just swallowed hard, his eyes watery. Callie, beside them, felt her own heart tighten. She saw the genuine emotion in Silas's eyes, the way he hugged Maya a little tighter. "Thank you," Callie said softly, just for him to hear, "for being here." "And for staying." Silas nodded, still unable to speak, just looking at Callie with eyes that said more than any word could express. Maya, still in his arms, took a folded paper from her uniform pocket. "I made a new drawing," she said, handing it to him. "Case for you to keep in your pocket close to your heart, just like the other one." Silas gently put Maya down and opened the paper. It was a colorful drawing, done with markers. It showed 3 people holding hands, Callie with her blonde hair, Maya in the middle, tiny and smiling, and Silas, tall with dark hair. Above them, a yellow sun with rays in all directions. Below, a simple house with windows, a door and a smoking chimney. Silas turned the paper over. On the back, written in Maya's childlike handwriting, in blue marker, was, "Now we are real family. You don't need paper or anything. You just need love." And there were 3 hearts drawn, 1 large and 2 small, intertwined. Silas folded the paper carefully, with reverence, and placed it in his shirt pocket, very close to his heart. Then he looked at Maya and at Callie, and finally found his voice, choked with emotion. "I love you both too, very much." They were simple words, without fanfare or grand declarations, but they were true. As true as the sun shining outside, as the air they breathed. Silas took one of Maya's hands, while Callie took the other, and the 3 of them left the auditorium like that, connected physically, and much more than that. As they walked, Silas reflected silently. He had built a company from scratch. He had achieved success, money, respect. But he had never felt the fullness he felt now, walking hand in hand with those two people who had entered his life by chance and become its center. Because family, Silas had learned, isn't just what you are born into. It is also what you choose to build. And he had made his choice. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.